In the last video about applying to business school, I talked about the essays, how you can prepare to answer the essays and pair up your accomplishments with those essays, and then the overall balance of your application and looking at each component of your application and understanding the strategy. I alluded to recommendations or how to select recommenders and interviewers, so I'm going to cover that in the next section. So let's jump right in to recommendations. So first, there's two parts to your recommendations. First, selecting your recommenders. Who should I select? You want to make sure that you select recommendations, people that can provide a professional recommendation from your work experience. You might be in a job right now where maybe you're not letting them know that you're applying to business school, and you don't feel comfortable with selecting a recommender. You're going to have to include that information somewhere in your application if that is the case, but ideally you would have a professional recommendation. This person can do two things. They can complement what's included, so they can mirror an accomplishment that you already have, or it can be a new accomplishment that you did not cover, and maybe the connection is that accomplishment is similar to another accomplishment that you spoke about in your application or at that employer, so that they can complement each other. Also, you want to make sure that if there is an opportunity to have several recommenders, that each recommender will provide, maybe a different viewpoint, that they're going to, I'll say add value, or add, I'll say add perspective is probably a better word. So what I did was I chose two people from my professional background that can speak to my work experience on separate projects, and then one person that provided insight to my community service, so that it would show a broader picture of myself, not only how my work ethic, but also my interest and passion for service. So that's an example of how to select. After you have selected those recommenders, you have to ask them, and I would also say, in stressing, allow an out. I mean, they might be very busy, they might not have the time, so, or you want to make sure that they can give a positive recommendation of you. So ask them, can you write a recommendation for me, and just be completely honest and open with them. If they for some reason cannot write a recommendation of you, you want to show yourself in your best light within your application. So consider that. Also, I would give them at least 1 month's time. So if you ask them even earlier than that, I asked them about 2.5 months before, then there's a greater chance that they will make time to fill out an application for you. So or fill out a recommendation for your application. So consider that as well. You might be thinking, okay, once I ask them, what are other things that I should provide? So what should I provide? I would provide a resume. I would also highlight provide them the mission of the school. Every program is going to be different, and they might highlight different characteristics. Uh, Sometimes they would need a refresher if they work with many different people. They may need an update on, hey, what accomplishments do you want me to highlight? That's a question you might receive. So actually, giving it, being very specific and accomplishments, going, what do you think about highlighting these accomplishments? Or I worked with you during these times. Can you speak to those? Um, so those are some things that you might want to provide. Um, you could provide a draft of your essays if you have them, or you may not feel comfortable because the essays may be that personal. So that is completely up to you. This is optional, but also scheduling. I'll say follow-up calls for them to have for them to have questions, and then also sending reminder messages, whether they are via email or phone. However, they ask them how they prefer to be contacted. Those are all things that you can do in preparing. And then also keep in mind that if you are applying to more than one school, you may not want to ask one recommender to fill out applications all for all the schools. It's a good amount of work to write a recommendation, so that's something that you would want to consider. So consider, this is not information to provide them, but consider the workload, and then I think that's those are all the points that I can think of right now. But also, considering the workload as you're asking people to be a recommender. So the second portion, we talk about the interview. So you may say, okay, how can I prepare for the interview? The first thing I would do is go to the website and see if they have past questions. Normally they don't, but if you go to Google, you will find websites that may have either past past questions to prepare. There's a website called, I think it's Poets and Quants. You can search for that and use those and draft responses, maybe even bullets to the responses. I would practice as you see fit. I would say by yourself, but also with another individual. If it's someone who has an MBA, even better. It's up to you. What level of response you're looking for. What level of preparation you may think about. So at least getting those questions off the internet and thinking of responses, that's one thing I would recommend. Usually what they're doing is that they're validating what is in the application. They're looking to see if your characteristics align with the mission of the school, or I should probably say, more accurately, do you fit? Several schools they pride themselves on building a network and a certain type of community. So there are certain characteristics. They may be social, harder to measure in an application, or maybe your application is stellar, but they're looking for something that sets you apart from another individual. So they're going to look for they're going to look for those characteristics in the interview. So that's something that you would like to consider. Remember, it is another part of your application. Maybe there's something that you didn't cover in your application that you would like to cover in the interview. So those are the points that I would consider during the recommendation process, and then also tips to consider as you're preparing for the interview. Oh, last part that I would consider also is your dress. You want to be in business attire, depending on the school, but from most business programs, for I'm not an expert on women's women's wear, business wear, but for men, you want to wear a suit and a tie, and have your suit, tie, shoes shined, and you want to be clean shaven. So this is for men. For women, what you would want to think about is, of course, you may want to wear a suit. Make sure that you're conservative in the way you dress, covering your, I would say, cover arms and shoulders. That might not be a hard and fast rule, but you can ask. When I've worked in the workplace, no open toe shoes, closed toe, so it's professional, and those are some tips I have on women. You might want to ask someone that has gone through the process previously on what you should wear. So I would recommend, consider your dress. You want to have a copy of your resume, or at least 2 copies, so you have one in front of you and you can provide another one. So I would say 2 to 3 to be on the safe side. Also, review your application. There may be a significant time period before you have submitted the application to when you attend, and they may ask you about something in the application. So make sure that you at least read over your application before you go to the interview. Have a pen ready, and you can have a portfolio binder so you look professional. And then also, one thing that I've heard, have questions about the institution. Make sure that these questions are insightful questions, that the answer can't be found, on the website. More, it could be questions. Maybe it's about the culture, or maybe it's about specific programs, and just something that speaks to your particular interest in that program. Make sure you have those, because usually they ask you, do you have any questions? So those are some tips for the interview, and some tips for recommendations. Thanks for your time.